Hello, I'm Sarah Jones, the St John's College Admissions Officer, and in this brief talk I hope to be able to bust a few myths about the Oxford application process. But isn't it really complicated? I hear this all the time, but the answer really is no. It's a process that even I can understand, so it can't be that bad. So let's take a look at what's involved. So first of all, pick your subject and then go through these 4 checks. And this will be useful for you when you're applying to other institutions as well as Oxford. Check the admissions requirements. Which A-levels or equivalent do I need? What's the grade requirement? And do I need to take a test? So you've then chosen your subject, but what about choosing a college? There are over 30 colleges, so how on earth do I decide? First of all, you can ask yourself this very important question. Does the college offer my subject? Most colleges will offer the popular subjects, but if your choice is a little bit more obscure, do check this out thoroughly before you proceed. Number 1, don't try and look at all the colleges. This isn't possible and it's not really going to be very helpful. You will need to whittle them down. So here's how. This is my rule of 5. Pick an old one, a new one, a small one, and then you can put in one for luck. If after all that you still can't decide, you can go down the road of making what we call an open application. This means that the great computer at the central admissions office will find a college for you. Don't worry that this will somehow put your application at disadvantage, because in the admissions offices at the colleges, we can't tell who has made an open application and who has applied directly to the college in question. So you now have your college. Now it's time to start your Ucas application. All applications to UK institutions are made online through Ucas. The Ucas site has lots of very helpful information for anyone considering an application. So get to know ucas.com and follow their instructions and guidelines. For Oxford, things are slightly different, so do remember that your application for Oxford must be in by 6 p.m. on the 15th of October. And also important is to make sure that you are registered for any admissions tests that you might need to take by this deadline. Also, check to see if your subject needs you to submit written work. This is normally for art subjects, languages, English, history, classics, and so on. Any subject that involves significant essay writing. My top tip is to make sure in both cases that you submit your Ucas application and test registration at least 1 week before the deadline. This is really quite important because you do not want to be up against the deadline and then you have a problem and then somehow you go over. The deadline is very strict, so make sure you give yourself a chance and you get everything done at least 1 week before. Your Ucas form. So what do we need to see on the Ucas form? First of all, the personal details and contacts, the list of your qualifications already achieved and those yet to be taken, your personal statement, your academic reference and your predicted grades. This gives us the information that we need to go forward with and to assess your application. One top tip that I have here is about your email address. Please make sure that it is clearly identifiable as yours, and you'll see the 2 examples here. joeblogs@topmail.com, that's fine. crazysky7@topmail, perhaps not. Also, you might like to consider at this stage changing from a school email address. These have an annoying habit of expiring exactly when you don't want them to do. So have an address that is clearly yours and one that you can carry forward into the future, so we always know that we're communicating with you. The next thing is key dates. Now these are quite important to remember. I have whittled them down to 4 really important dates for you to put onto your calendar. The first we have already discussed, the Ucas deadline and test registration. However, please note that if you are applying for law, there will be different sittings of the LNAT test, and it must be taken before the 15th of October. So register for law, register by the 15th of September and take the LNAT before the 15th of October. The other tests will now be sat on either the 3rd or the 4th of November. So do check your subject details for the precise date of your test. Is written work needed? And if it is, I need to have that by the 10th of November. And our interview period this year will range between the 6th and the 20th of December. So you've pressed send on your Ucas application. What happens now? Probably not very much immediately afterwards. So after about a week, the colleges will then have your information, and they will get in touch with you and they will outline the next stage in the process. If you apply to St John's, you will get my one-size-fits-all acknowledgement email that gives a full outline of what to expect and some useful links. The top tip here is to read this communication very carefully and do let us know if any information needs updating or if we have anything wrong and it needs to be corrected. This is a good chance to be able to do this early in the process. Written work. If your subject needs written work, please make sure that you have read the instructions about how to submit it. These are fairly simple. All written work must be submitted electronically. It must be accompanied by a cover sheet for each piece, and it must be in a PDF format, one file for each piece, so I can upload it to our system so our tutors can then read them. If you have any doubts about the suitability of a piece, please do get in touch. I'm always happy to talk about written work, and if you haven't got anything that seems immediately suitable, we can always offer alternatives and suggestions. Shortlisting. This is the next stage when we decide who we are going to invite to our interviews. We will be able to start letting people know, usually from about mid-November. All communications are by email, and it's very important during this period to check your junk box as well, just in case an email with important information about an interview has gone astray. You will always be asked to acknowledge your interview invitation so we know that you have received it. Special requirements. If you have any special requirements that you think we need to know about in order to help you with your interview arrangements, please do let us know as soon as possible, because we're always keen and willing to make reasonable adjustment in the case of illness, disability, or difficult personal circumstances, or if something's gone wrong at school or with the progress of your education. If you think your application can be affected in any way, do please let us know and do not be shy about it. It's important that we know. Make sure on your Ucas form, if you do have a disability, that you declare it, because this will flag up this issue to us immediately in the process, and we can start the ball rolling as soon as we have your form. Another top tip is to keep any documentation to hand in case it's required. And by this, I mean things like medical reports, or in particular, if you have an extra time allowance for things like written work, reading exercises, or even interview situations, we need to know about that, and we need to see the documentation that outlines your extra time requirement. So please keep that in a form that you can send to me as a scanned attachment. Okay, you have an interview. So what now? As was the case last year, all interviews are going to be online via Microsoft Teams. So make sure the following. Please make sure your school knows about your interview, and encourage your teachers to get in touch if they have any questions at all, or if they need help, or they have any doubts about the technology that's involved. Do make sure that you have access to suitable technology. The technology needs for the various subjects will be publicised well in advance, and there will be full guidance about this. Do please let us know if you have any concerns about your access to technology, or if anything in your school setup you feel is not suitable or needs to be changed. Here at St John's, we're happy for candidates to be interviewed at home or in any other suitable alternative venue. It doesn't have to be in the school. What happens if you hit problems? This is quite common. And if you hit a problem at any stage of the process, please do let us know. It's important that you do. It might be something or nothing, but it is important that you tell us about it. There's very few problems cannot be sorted out if we know about them in advance and in good time. And we're always happy to talk and find a solution. So please, I can't stress this enough, if there's something you feel is going wrong, please let me know. Okay, for further information and to recap on some of the points that we've covered earlier, here you will see some links to important information. For example, subject information. This will give you details about your subject's requirements, recommended or essential A-levels, test requirements. It's a very useful page. I use it a lot myself in my job, and it's very, very helpful. We have information about the colleges, and this might be helpful for subject choices. Also, just so you can have a look at the college and what individual colleges are offering, particularly, say, in terms of things like accommodation. And the university also has a very good site on application advice and tips, including a timeline so you can remind yourself about what needs to be done by when. Get to know these 3 sites. They can also lead you off in other interesting directions, but if you have these 3 links to the sites, you won't go far wrong, and it will be very helpful. So, questions. Please do feel free to get in touch with me if you would like to take anything further, or if you want any further information, or you would simply want to chat or some reassurance about some aspect of the application process. I said a very long time ago, I was a candidate myself, so I do have some idea of what it's like. So you can get in contact with me in 2 ways. So you can drop me an email, or you can give me a call on my personal number. I'm always very, very happy to hear from you. And if you are thinking of applying for Oxford, I'd like to wish you all the luck.